The War is Over. The Stonehouse Series, Chapter 63. 3 from the cloud of millions had been watching one of their own walking towards a large stone house. Several others from their group walked through the streets of Jerusalem. Now they turned their attention to the tomb, where a flaming angel had only moments before landed, scared an entire watch of soldiers, and stepped into the tomb through the door. "The soldiers are waking up," observed Queen Esther. "Those boys are up to their armpits in alligators. They're in trouble, and they know it." Mordecai said, "They have only been unconscious for 2 or at the most 3 minutes. But they have no comprehension of how long they have been out," David explained. "Their minds can't tell them if it was 3 minutes or 30 minutes. Queen Esther wondered, "What will happen to them? In my kingdom, they would have been executed for falling asleep while on watch. Plus, they sort of failed at their mission. Jesus is more than just alive." David responded, "I expect the same thing will happen here, permanently decommissioned." "You mean they're going to kill them?" "Yes, unless their commander can negotiate some sort of deal." Slowly, unconscious soldiers began to come around. They observed each other and their surroundings. No one damaged, no one missing, except they looked to the tomb entrance. The stone was rolled away. 2 soldiers closest to the tomb went inside, and then a third. They came out slowly, shaking their heads, and went directly to their unit commander. After a few moments of discussion, the entire watch of soldiers headed towards Jerusalem. "Mordecai, did you notice how many of our troop took the scenic route Jesus spoke of and are walking around down there?" David asked. "The number I do not know, but when you look closely, you can spot each one. They are tethered to Jesus by a skinny beam of light, and there is a glow about them. They even show up through buildings and stone. I can see 13. No, 14, walking the streets of Jerusalem. See?" In the early morning light, 3 women approached the tomb. Leading the group was Mary Magdalene. Nothing they saw was what they expected. The soldiers that had been charged to guard the tomb were nowhere to be seen, and the massive stone covering the door was rolled back. Mary bent over to look inside. The tomb was completely empty, and the cluster of women began to panic. They ran to find Peter and the others. "I see them," exclaimed Queen Esther. "Just follow the beams of light. They lead straight to each one." David was amazed. Wow, just look at the faces of the people who recognize them. They are some kind of surprised. "I can see one, a woman, way over there, about 2 or 3 miles east." "Can you tell who it is?" Queen Esther asked. "Phanuel's daughter," answered David. "That's Anna, or our Anna." Queen Esther quickly glanced around. "What? I didn't notice she was gone. She's running up the path to that big stone house." "Oh, David, that's the house of Simon, where the other Esther is, the one who looks like me. David, Uncle Mordecai, is she going to see her Simon?" Fiery eyes clouded Mary Magdalene's vision as she ran, pre-dawn darkness anger pushing her past her cramping side. "Do this, don't do that, it's the law." Now 3 days of delayed reaction had only left her with a hollow heart and an empty grave. Frustrated emotions surfaced, emotions planted about religious minions who continually preened among some new decree. Haven't they done enough already? First they murder him, and now they go and rape the grave. A stolen body and an empty tomb. Mary fought with her thoughts from those who told her what she should believe. Scratchiness gnawed upon her heart. They must have paid off the soldiers, paid them to steal his body. Filthy creatures probably dumped it in some garbage pit or buried it in some deserted ravine. It's not like we need another martyr to build some shrine to mark the grave. Waves of tumbled memories churned within her mind of what was and is to come. From the author of her second chance, she remembered words that bubbled up, words that he had spoken. They struggled to the surface of her mind for just one breath of air. Mary Magdalene reached a stone barn where Jesus' select group of grown men were hiding like frightened children, and she ran up to the small door. "Peter!" hollered Mary as she beat upon the door. "Peter!" she yelled, pounding again with both of her hands. "Peter!" she shouted and stepped back, preparing to confront whoever answered. Anna ran toward Stonehouse, hunting Simon. Mary Magdalene pounded on a heavy timber door, hollering for Peter, and the three watchers in the sky were torn with which one to follow after, until they realized that somehow they could watch and hear both women while hovering where they were. Queen Esther was focused on the youthful-looking Anna arriving at Stonehouse. She was walking up the steps. "I hope Simon will recognize her. He was only a small boy, 4 or 5 years old, when Anna's body died." Mordecai agreed. "Yes, and her earth-suit was about worn out, well over 100 years old, and that old body looked a lot different than the real Anna does." Queen Esther observed, "When her body was about 30 or 35 years old, it would have looked close to Anna's spirit self." David contemplated. "Hannah is quite aware that Lazarus is a good friend to Simon. She only asked Simon a few questions, but she watched him closely. She was seldom more than 20 feet from the man the entire time that he was with us." Seeing Anna pass through the home's outside wall and enter Simon's room, Mordecai added, "Anna was studying Lazarus to gather understanding about Jesus and Simon. Of that I am sure. She's quite confident of who she will find, and she will not be disappointed." I'm coming," declared a voice. "Hold on, I'm coming. Don't tear the door down." Mary Magdalene heard a crossbar being removed and the door slowly opened, and Peter stood inside. He's gone," she gasped between breaths. "The stone was rolled away and his body wasn't there." The other male voice mumbled inside, and John stumbled out of the door looking like he was been sleeping in yesterday's clothes. "The soldiers?" John asked. "Where are the soldiers?" "I don't know," answered Mary, still gasping breaths. I didn't see anyone. It was only me and 2 others who went there with me." And standing near the step, Mary glanced around. Confusion settled on her forehead. "I don't even know where they are now. I thought they were right behind me." Peter was doubtful. "And the body of Jesus wasn't there? Are you sure you went to the right tomb? Maybe you got turned around in the dark. There are more than 24 of those Special Forces soldiers guarding the tomb. They wouldn't just run away, you know. They could be nearby. Did soldiers follow you?" Mary Magdalene was furious, and she shifted the direction of her flowing emotion. Peter, do I have to get my mother to go back there with me? Are you going to quit hiding? John finished tying on his second sandal and started trotting off in the direction Mary had come from. He looked back over his shoulder and said, "Well, fish or cut bait, Peter." "Oh, bother, I'm coming. Slow down," Peter responded, trying to catch up. "No," John replied over his shoulder. "You get your body moving." Mary followed a few steps behind Peter just to make sure that she didn't lose either of the men. And as they ran, Peter continually scanned his surroundings, looking for soldiers or guards of any kind. 6 minutes to cover a 1-mile return trip was a bit longer than Mary's run, but they still made it back shortly before sunrise. John got to the tomb first, but just stood there looking at the massive stone and the open doorway. Peter arrived and scooted down right into the tomb. "You're right, Mary," his voice a muffled response from inside. "There's no one here." John stepped in there with him, scratching his head, trying to remember something. Why aren't the soldiers here? Where did the body go? I know he was dead. Dead in a dozen different ways. Peter and John maneuvered through the doorway and out again, and they started walking for the barn. "What?" called Mary. "You're leaving? Just like that? You're going back?" Peter replied, "Mary, there's no one here. We'll be at the barn." No, said Mary, standing at the doorway. This is just all wrong. It wasn't supposed to happen like this." Watching the men leave, Mary slumped back against the door's cover stone, and she slid to the ground in a lump, weeping, her body quivering as she cried.